Welcome everyone. Today we're continuing our talk about compound inequalities. Remember, a compound inequality consists of two separate inequalities joined by and or or. So our word and our word or. The first one, the graph of a compound inequality with and is the intersection of the graphs of the inequalities. So if we have x is greater than -2, that's a open circle pointing to the right. X is less than or equal to 1. That's a closed circle pointing to the left. So -2 is less than x, and x is less than 1 has our open circle pointing to the left or the right, and our closed circle pointing to the left. So that's the intersection. X is a solution of both of the inequalities. Now the graph of a compound inequality with or is the union of the graphs. So if we have x is greater than or equal to 0, that's a closed circle pointing to the right. Here x is less than -1, open circle pointing to the left. So if we put those together, x is less than -1, so our open circle pointing to the left, or x is greater than or equal to 0, so our closed circle pointing to the right. So x is a solution of at least one of the inequalities. So x could either be less than -1, or it could be greater than or equal to 0. It can't be both. Now, when we are graphing, if we ever have a graph that goes like this, and then another inequality that goes the same direction, that is impossible. We can't have that. So if you see this, when you graph it, probably go back and check to see if you made a mistake, because we should not be able to see our arrows going in the same direction. So if we jump to writing an inequality, here we have this area in the middle. That is our solution. So right away I know this is an and inequality. We have a closed circle, so I know that x is going to be pointing to the right, and the closed circle means it's an equal to. We have another closed circle pointing to the left, so we have an x is pointing to the left equal to. The first one is at 11, so x is greater than or equal to 11, and x is less than or equal to 16. So if we put these two together, we could write and in between these, or we could put our least one, which is 11, on the left side, flip our symbol, and we could include this one, but instead of the x, we just have to put the less than or equal to 16. So our solution here would be in between 11 and 16. Here we have a closed circle. This one is pointing to the left, so less than or equal to. X is less than or equal to -6. Here we have an open circle pointing to the right, so we have x is greater than -3. They're pointing in different directions, so I know that this is an or inequality. Another way to remember it, and if we put our thumbs together, they're going to meet in the middle. Ors, our thumbs are going out to the sides. Here we need to solve these inequalities. We're looking to see if they're separate or together. Now these two are together because they're both and inequalities. So what we're going to do is solve these. I'm going to put lines down the middle so I know that what's in the middle and what's on my sides. We just have to start by adding 6 because we're trying to get x by itself. When we add 6 in the middle, whatever we do in the middle, we have to do to the outsides. So we have negative 36 plus 6, which gives us a negative 30, is less than 3x, which is less than a negative 9. Divide that by 3, divide that by 3, and 3. So we have x in the middle. Negative 30 divided by 3 is negative 10, which is less than x, which is less than negative 9 divided by 3, which is negative 3. So to graph these, we need to split them up. We have negative 10 is less than x. Now we can't ever have the x on the right side, so we need to rewrite this to be x is greater than negative 10. And then we have x is less than negative 3. So our graph, now we need to figure out which one of these is less. The negative 10 is the lesser one. So negative 10 goes on the left side, and negative 3 goes on the right side. Negative 10 has an open circle pointing to the right, and negative 3 has an open circle pointing to the left. So we have an and inequality. They're pointing together. Here again, we have to draw two lines down to separate all our stuff. Here we have 4 outside of parentheses. So this means we have to distribute the 4. So 4 times 2x gives us 8x. And 4 times negative 3 gives us negative 12. So we still have the 28, which is less than or equal to, and less than or equal to 68. Now here we're going to add 12 to everything. (28) plus 12 gives us 40, which is less than or equal to 8x, which is less than or equal to 80. Finally, divide by 8, and we get 40 divided by 8, which is 5, is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 10. If we split these up, we have 5 is less than or equal to x. We can't have our x on the right side, so we need to flip this. So x is now greater than or equal to 5. And then we have x, which is less than or equal to 10. So we have x is greater than or equal to 5, and x is less than or equal to 10. Drawing our number line, I see that 5 is the least, so we have 5 on the left and 10 on the right. Now this time we're going to have a closed circle pointing to the right, and we're going to have another closed circle pointing to the left. Alright, our next one. Now this is a lot to look at. The first thing we need to look at though is what's in the middle, and that's or. So we're going to split this up into 2 just so we can do each of them separately. Here I see that I have an h on both sides. So we need to move our h's, or our variables, to the left side. So I'm going to subtract h. Now when I subtract just a single h, that's like a 1h. So negative 2h minus 1h gives me a negative 3h. Minus 7 is greater than 5. Add 7. Now we get negative 3h is greater than 12. Last thing, divide by negative 3. Now we divided by a negative number. Remember that when we divide by a negative number, we have to flip our sign. So now h is less than negative 4. And then when we go over here, we have 1/4 distributed to h and 8. So we have 1/4 h and 1/4 of 8, which is 2. Here we subtract 2, and we have 1/4 h is greater than or equal to 7. Now we have to find a way to get rid of that fraction. When we get rid of a fraction, we have to multiply by the reciprocal, so 4 over 1 instead of 1 over 4. Those cancel out. We also have to multiply 4 over 1 here. So we have h is greater than or equal to 7 times 4, which is 28. 1 times 1 is just 1, so we know that h is greater than or equal to 28. Now, when we graph this, we have to look at which one's the least. Here, negative 4 is the least, so we have to put negative 4 on the left side. 28 is on the right side because it's the greater one. Negative 4 has an open circle, and this one is pointing to the left. 28 has a closed circle, and this one is pointing to the right. So h could be either less than negative 4 or greater than or equal to 28. Now, what I want you to do is pause this video, and I want you to do this first one all by yourself, just to get a little extra practice. We will do this second one after you finish this one. So pause the video right now and work on this one as you go. Alright, back to this one. We have 2/3. That's going to be distributed to 6 and 18. So I'm going to draw these two lines down so I know to keep something in the middle. Now 2/3 of 6, that gives me 4w. And 2/3 of 18, that gives me 12. So we have 7 is greater than 4w plus 12, which is greater than or equal to negative 9. So here we have to subtract 12. When we subtract 12 in the middle, we have to subtract 12 from everything. So 7 minus 12 gives us a negative 5, which is less or greater than 4w, which is less or greater than or equal to a negative 21. Then finally divide by 4. What we get then is negative 5 over 4 is greater than w, which is greater than or equal to negative 21 over 4. Now if we separate these two, we have negative 5 over 4 is greater than w. We always have to have our w on the left side, so w is actually less than negative 5 over 4. And we have w is greater than or equal to negative 21 over 4. Now, when we're graphing this, we need to see which one is less. Now, negative 5 over 4 is very close to negative 1. It's a little bit over because the 5 is on top. This one is very close to almost a negative 3. Or not a negative 3, sorry. Negative 8. Negative 4, sorry. Or 6. I can't do math right now. I apologize. This is a very close to a negative 6. So, which one is the least? Well, negative 6 is further away from 0. So that one is our least. So negative 21 over 4 is on the left side. Negative 5 over 4 is on the right side. So negative 5 over 4 has an open circle, and that is pointing to the right. Negative 21 over 4 has a closed circle, and that is pointing to the left. So x is anywhere in between those two. Alright, here we have a couple OR inequalities. So the first one, OR, we're going to separate them so we know to do each of them separately. I'm going to subtract 3, my first step. So we have 2x is less than, not less than or equal to, less than 9 minus 3, which is 6. Divide that by 2, and x is less than 3. Over here we have to add 6. And we get 3x is greater than 18. Divide by 3. And we get x is greater than 6. So if we're going to graph this, the least one is 3, so that goes on the left. The greater one is 6, that goes on the right. 3 has an open circle, and that's pointing to the left. 6 has an open circle, and that's pointing to the right. This is an OR inequality. X can be anything less than 3 or greater than 6. Now again, pause the video, do this one on your own. Use the same steps that we did here to solve this inequality. Alright, last problem says, an investor buys shares of a stock and will sell them if the change C in value from the purchase price of a share is less than negative $3 or greater than $4.50. Write and graph a compound inequality that describes the changes in values for which the shares will be sold. Well, the first one, we know that he will sell if the price is less than negative 3. So x has to be less than negative 3. Sorry, it's not x, it's c. We also know that he will sell if c is greater than $4.50. Now, this word here, or, tells us what kind of inequality this is. So it's an OR inequality. If we graph this, 3 or negative 3 is the least one. So if x for c is less than 3, so an open circle, he will sell, or if c is greater than 450, another open circle, he will sell. Alright, your homework for today is to do this book assignment. Don't worry about the quiz right now. Just do page 384, numbers 9 through 20. If you want to try the quiz, you're more than welcome to, but don't worry about it. This is your assignment right now.